Sigismund watched as the warrior called Delvarus and another paced to one side of the pit. On the other, Karn waited, his limbs and body shifting as though an electrocharge were building up inside him. Twin blades hung in his hands. The warrior paired to him was pacing from side to side. The pit and the space had gone quiet, a low grinding silence of a storm reaching for thunder. "What has become of them?" asked Boreas. "You think they have changed? The warhounds were warriors of a great legion. I do not think they have changed. I think they have become more themselves. I think that perhaps..." Boreas looked around at the rare hesitation in his mentor's voice. "I think we are all like them. They have not changed. They have become true." Boreas looked back at where the warriors were pacing across the sand of the pit, rolling shoulders. Delvarus on one side with his partner Karn on the other. Delvarus had begun to spin a sphere of metal on the end of a chain. Karn was just staring as though seeing nothing, muscles flexing and twitching. "They are barely holding themselves true," said Boreas quietly. "The rumors are true. They are barely a blink away from murder." "What more do we need to see than this?" asked Boreas, his voice firm but low. "We are not here as judges," said Sigismund. "What are we here for then?" "To understand," said Sigismund. "To understand what?" asked Boreas. "The exact nature of their barbarity?" "No. To understand if it is barbarity at all." Sand kicked in the air. Sigismund saw it unfold, saw Karn leap forward as his partner's mace crashed into Delvarus' shield. The hound-helmed warrior met the blow and rammed his weight up and out. The warrior with the mace staggered, so fast all of them, and all of it raw. No blows pulled, nothing held back. Sigismund was aware of Boreas looking at him, and glanced at the lieutenant, eyebrow raised in question. Boreas shrugged. "You are smiling," he said. "Why are you here, Templar?" said Karn, and Sigismund could hear the forced calm in the World Eater's voice. "I like quiet," said Sigismund. "But not solitude," Karn growled and looked around. His hand was still on the blade he had been putting into the rack. He snorted and turned his back again. "I know why you are here. You are here to judge us, to see if we are as mired in savagery as the cowards say we are." "I am here to fight at your side," said Sigismund. "I am here as a brother of the legions." "As a brother?" said Karn, turning from the weapon rack, an ugly grin now on his face. "You are not my brother, Sigismund. You may talk of custom and shared blood all you want, but we are different. You were made to make war the way a man sets bricks, one dull layer at a time. We were made to become it. You see this?" He gestured at the metal walls. "This is not your circle of blades. This is the eye of the truth looking back at you. Blood and hurt and pain and more blood. Because that is what war is. We are not animals. We are just honest." Karn was just 2 paces from Sigismund, head forward, muscles ticking on face and torso like the firing of pistons. Sigismund held still. "I fought beside your legion before," said Sigismund. "I stood beside a warrior called Sai on my first battlefield." "Dead now, like the warhounds we were," said Karn, and he began to turn. "Did he die well?" asked Sigismund. Karn paused, looked back at Sigismund. "He died a centurion, standing with a weapon in his hand. None of us can ask for anything else." Sigismund moved around to the rack. Turning his back on Karn, he looked at the weapons. There were axes, knives, cleavers, chain meteor hammers, broad-bladed spears. "May I?" said Sigismund. Karn shrugged. Sigismund unhooked a sword with a heavy fork-tipped blade. The weight pulled at him like an animal trying to break free. He swung it and listened to the heavy steel pull the edge through the air with a whistle. "Yes," said Karn. "That one is a beast, not made for fine motion." "One cut, one kill," said Sigismund, and whipped the blade through a fast downward cut. Do you think I haven't heard of you, Templar? Asked Karn, his voice low, a threat held back. I have. Who in the legions has not? The great champion, the master of blades, always at the front, never slowing, stone within, fire without. They say you are undefeated. Is it true? Sigismund nodded. Karn raised a scar-twisted eyebrow. We will see. Sigismund felt the challenge in the words, the test. You may see now, if you wish, he said. Karn's grin pulled into a wide, broken-toothed smile. Ha! This is not the dueling cages of other legions. You wish to cross blades with me, Sigismund, Templar of the Seventh. Then you need to walk out here under the eyes of all. Stab your weapon in the sands. Sigismund turned and put the heavy blade back in the rack. You are not what I expected, said Karn. Most others of the other legions who have come here, they do not come anywhere near these places. No matter how bloody they are themselves, they do not understand. You though, I think you may be something else. What is that? Sigismund asked, and heard the surprise in his voice. I do not know yet, said Karn. I think maybe you do not either. Sigismund walked into the arena. The tires above were already filling with warriors. Eyes gleamed in the low light, following him as he crossed the stand. Come to judge our barbarity again, Black Knight, said Karn. Sigismund shook his head. He drew his sword. The World Eater's weapons came up, teeth bared. Sigismund plunged the sword point down into the sand. Karn snapped back, still like a dog held on a taut leash. I come to walk on the red sands, said Sigismund, his hands on the pommel of the sword. Karn looked at the blade, then at Sigismund. His sneer might have become a grin. A rattling growl came from him that Sigismund took a moment to realize was a chuckle. The warriors in the pit and on the tires above were jeering now. Karn laughed, the sound rolling around the pit like the firing of pistons, and then he was an arm's reach from Sigismund, voice no longer a roar, but a rasp. I am not mocked, Templar. His eyes were wide, his teeth bared. This is our ground, you understand, our truth? The blood of our brothers has fallen on this sand. We were dogs, but we are not fools. This is our ground. I am a son of this place. We all are, and I will not be mocked. Sigismund pulled the sword out of the ground, reversed his grip and held it out, pommel first, to Karn. This is the sword of a defender of the oaths of my legion. It was made by a forgotten smith who was killed by cruel masters. It is the blade that carries my word. It is my sword, Karn. I offer it to you on this sand. Karn gazed at the sword hilt, face suddenly frozen, uncertain. I am not mocked, said Sigismund. Karn looked at him, then reached out and took the sword. He lifted it, eyes darting over the rippled steel. You may keep it, he said, and spun the blade before plunging it back into the ground. I prefer my own. Besides, it's better that you don't do this with an unfamiliar blade. Karn glanced over his shoulder, the closest of the World Eaters in the pit. Scarlock, brother, you will have to find another to stand besides. Delvarus, you will be with this Black Knight of the Seventh. Karn turned and sat again on the bench and began to look to the chains half circling his wrists. Delvarus moved towards Sigismund. The Triarii warrior's hound helm hid an expression on his face. Stay in my shadow, he growled. I am not dragging you across the pit. I am not going to let you stain my record. Understand? Here you are not captain of anything. You are the warrior bound to me, and I to you, for better or worse. I understand, Sigismund said, and turned to where Karn was chaining his weapons to his arms. Sigismund held out a hand towards the chains. Karn looked at the hand and then him. The skin beside his right eye was twitching. A chain, said Sigismund, now lowering his hand. I would not wish to lose my sword in our first bout. First bout? Who says you will get past one? Sigismund shrugged. Karn let out a long breath. You know, I am getting the most pointed feeling that I am going to regret this. He shook his head and unwound the chain that dangled from his right wrist. Here, he said, holding the links out to Sigismund, who took them, and began to wind them around his right forearm. Besides him, Delvarus shook out his meteor hammer, whirling the heavy iron ball on its chain so that it rippled through the air. Karn rose and moved to the other side of the sand with Scarlock. The doors in the pit walls shut. A buzzing quiet had filled the chamber. Sigismund finished fastening the chain onto his sword. He looked at Delvarus. The hound helm nodded. Karn turned, his twitching muscles suddenly still. Sigismund raised the sword and touched it to his forehead. Then the roar, and the surge of muscle and blood, and the whirl of chain, and the clash of steel.